Hi, this is Tracy Hanson, Ladies Ministry Director here at Links Players International. I'm back in the desert with Jeffrey Cranford, and we're in a series about sharing your faith. So I think we're on part 3, and
Yes.
Last time we talked about the Word. And out of the parable of Mark 4, verses 3 and 4 said, "Listen to this, behold, the sower went out to sow. And it came about that he was sowing some seed, and it fell beside the road, and the birds came and ate it up." And we talked about that seed being the Word of God,
Yeah.
and how we need to have the Word in
Right.
us, and we need to be able to speak the Word to other people. So Jeff, unpack for us a little bit more about what does it mean that the birds came and ate it up?
First of all, the birds, Jesus goes on and says this was beside the road. So it's beside the road. So I know I started playing golf when I was a kid, and when we first started playing, we played in West Texas. And there weren't these luxurious cart paths everywhere with curbs and all this. The carts went in certain places in and around the tee, and it would just be dirt, it would be hard packed, and then you got relief from the cart path. But the cart path was hard to even distinguish. So it kind of looked hard. Oh, that looks like some grass, but the grass would never grow there. The cart traffic was so heavy. It was just so hard packed, and West Texas doesn't get that much rain anyway. And so Jesus was likening that to be beside the road. So there's all this seed being thrown. It's just sitting right up on top. It's never penetrating. So the question, I think, for us and trying to ascertain, you can tell when you first start having a spiritual conversation with somebody, Tracy, I think you know right off the bat if there's interest or if there's a pushback. So sometimes there's a pushback, and it may be the road is so hard that they wouldn't even say they have any belief in God. They would say, I'm just an atheist. I don't believe in any of that nonsense. It's just a bunch of myth and fairy tale, and you can't believe any of those things. One of the ways that I like to strategize, just to think about that, is to think now, what is it in that person's life that would have maybe driven them to such a strong position? Now, it's one thing to say, hey, you know what, I'm not so sure. I mean, there's a lot of religions and there's a lot of things, but when somebody comes across so hard, you can feel the soil of their heart is so hard, maybe there is something in their background. Maybe they had a religious figure in their life that turned out to be a complete phony, or maybe they lost a son or a daughter early on and just at that point said, if there is a God, I refuse to believe in that God. That soil's become so hard. We need to be incredibly sensitive to that and not just come across with, well, when they say this, we say this, and they say this, we say that's sales tactics. People can sense that a million miles away. So I think the very early stages are asking some penetrating questions. So rather than feeling like you've just got to throw the whole thing at them, I would never, if I'm talking to somebody right off the bat, says, quote, for instance, a psalm that says, a fool says in their heart, there is no God. Well, that may be true, and that may be appropriate if someone's heart is so hard, but typically it will be more, well, tell me how you arrived at that decision. Tell me why you're feeling that way. You got to realize that some people will do amazing things in their own journey by just hearing themselves talk.
Yeah. Well, it's about learning somebody's story and building relationship.
Exactly. And I know that's a huge thing for you.
It is. And that's where vulnerability is established, when we start to ask questions and want to get to know somebody. Not just to feed them information, but really get to know them.
Exactly. And if we're doing this in love, as Jesus clearly would, we're not, some people say, you're just trying to get a notch in your holster. You're trying to add, me to your list, your cadre of people you've quote unquote led to Christ. Back off from me is a whole different vibe than if you recognize there's some hard soil here. I want to get to the bottom of why this is so hard. I think that's a great starting point, and not let Satan just come in there and immediately snatch that seed away. So step number 1, establish relationship. Sometimes that could be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years before someone really gets to know you. Is it a perfect scenario? Probably not going to happen on an airplane ride, but those close relationships for sure. Yeah. For sure. So next time, let's talk a little bit more systematically about what is other kinds of soil and hearts, and what should we be sensitive to if we're going to share our faith.